The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the New Media Factory. Some programs on this network might include strong images and language and may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi all, welcome to a new episode of the theBobberyCast. First of all, our usual thanks to the sponsors here at Beyond the Box. And also thank you to New Media Factory for hosting us again. Check out these guys and their show at nmfnetwork.tv. Other than that, I don't know what else to say. To be honest, I asked Jojo, do you want to guest on the show? As time is going, more and more people are coming. So guys,
famous, you know? So.
Guys, introduce yourself. So I also know who's here, what questions to ask.
Ladies first.
Well, I'm Christina Laskowski. I serve as volunteer president for a nonprofit called the Science and Technology Advisor Council, Silicon Valley. And separately, I have my own consulting practice and serve as a managing director of a consulting practice focused on working with growth companies and startups in Silicon Valley.
Thank you, Christina. Welcome on the theBobberyCast.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for making time for us.
Hi, I'm Roland. I'm currently Chief Technical Advisor of Chica.com and used to be with a private equity firm, Next Century Partners. Currently helping my brother with his startup. So, nice to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Roland. Next. And for those who don't know, there were even some more people who walk behind the cameras,
Yeah, we should squeeze them in.
And normally Jay will walk in as well, soon, so I don't know how we would manage that. Sorry to interrupt you, but we were earlier talking about the Magnificent Seven and Seven Samurais. That's more and more what this show is becoming. So Jojo.
Hi everyone, my name is Jojo Flores. I'm together with Christina at STAC Silicon Valley, so we'll talk more about that later. But the other thing that I do is with Plug and Play Tech Center, which I started in Silicon Valley 6 years ago.
Thanks to everyone to come. I'm starbaffled. I'm starstruck today. We've got all those people, co-founder of Chica, Silicon Valley, and then we've got those guys in the background who have risen from 6 feet under just to sit in here on the show. I don't know. It doesn't happen a lot, but I don't know what to say this time. So I'll just leave that to you guys. You know what you're talking about. Have fun. I'll be back in half an hour or something.
Maybe I'll join you for drinks.
That sounds like a plan. Usually I walk out later, but Philippines, startups.
Aren't we going to bring in our other guests? Are we going to squeeze them in?
They are saying no, so that's a reason to wheel those shares over here.
Okay, just give them the bill.
So Christina, let's talk about On3, STAC, and all that.
And startups. In fact, our guests who are hidden here are some of our strong supporters. But STAC Silicon Valley is a nonprofit group that was founded by Filipino Americans who are professionals in the Valley who had a very strong interest to help the Philippines. And one way was to focus on supporting and building an entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so we began our efforts in earnest in 2007. And happily, we've been able to hit a number of milestones. We kicked off with our main activity, which is called On3. On3 is a business plan competition that we host across the country. On3 stands for 3 regions of the Philippines: Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. 3 minutes to pitch your company, and the grand prize is a 3-month immersion in Silicon Valley at Plug and Play Tech Center. So, fortunate for us, we're in our 3rd year now.
3-3.
Yeah, 3-3 exactly, and we've had 3 major sponsors: Smart, Novare, and Globe are our 3 major sponsors. So 3 major sponsors supporting our efforts. And we're really thrilled with the results thus far. We think that the Philippines has a lot of potential, a place in the global market, and we've been seeing a lot of more interesting companies surface over the number of years. And as I said, we've hit a number of milestones. We're very excited about the prospects of drawing a lot more attention to the Philippines and seeing a lot more success stories surface in the country.
Rather than asking the usual questions like what's the size of the fund and everything, like no one cares. Startups, they care like give me the money already. So those details, we leave them out. Like you say the valley, like drawing attention to the Philippines. Last year a lot has happened in the local scene. It feels like it's all coming together. We're still early stage but maturing quickly, hopefully.
Right.
Like if you live abroad, how does it feel? Is there any attention on the Philippines already, the startup ecosystem? Because we like to think here that we're the next Silicon Valley, but I think every country in Asia wants to become that. But how is it from abroad? How are the Philippines seen at the moment?
Well, it's interesting. I was on the East Coast the summer of last year, and I was sharing with the audience that we had this sort of rising ecosystem, and they didn't even think of the Philippines as being a player in the tech, basically in the tech industry. They didn't even know that there was a thriving startup industry that was starting to take fold. But on the other hand, what we've seen this year is that we've got companies like Caliber, that's a Y Combinator company. We saw last year Twit Music as a 500 startup company. So more and more, we're seeing the Filipino companies, fall under the radar of Silicon Valley investors. But I think there's a lot more that needs to happen before we get full attention, because we are still educating the community there about the opportunities that are here.
And we have in April, although it's still pending confirmation, I have not had any final confirmation yet, but Bowie is coming to the Philippines as part of World Status, World Startup Report. He would also come to the theBobberyCast on April 3rd.
Great.
He comes from the airport straight over here. But he's also sponsored by 500 startups. We obviously locally hope that efforts like that will further help the Philippines and the local startups to emerge and get more attention.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I mean, what we're finding, the observation is that more and more the international market is of interest, particularly to the VCs in the Valley. And so there is more and more activity, more and more interest outside of the country. Not only is Babbery Guy, traveling the world and sharing his findings, but you're finding organizations like Demo, they're doing Demo in Singapore, in India. They're doing a lot of the events outside of the country in search of more opportunities. So,
do you think that at the moment, like the Valley is opening up more and more and realizing, of course, like we have Singapore who have created their own bubble.
Right.
Like Singapore is, if we look for an equivalent, it's very much the Valley of the rest of the world, with how government funding and everything happens, and they will deny that anything. It's like the US Singapore, like we are here and the rest are the monsters. Very much. Sorry guys, like I don't want to bash you, but that's how you actually appear very often. But like then, 5-6 years ago, I think the Valley and the US had this old obsession to understand Indonesia, which like they still haven't cracked, and I don't think anyone has cracked the dynamics of Indonesian startups tech. And like now slowly it's opening up. Do you think like there is becoming there is more and more a focus towards Asia?
Yeah, well, at least at Plug and Play, we work with close to 200 VCs. And my estimate is that with all of these VCs, I think they're budgeting between 20 to 30% of their money to go outside of the United States. Right now, they are looking for, inside Plug and Play, we at any given time, we have about 300 startups. About a third of them coming from all around the world. That's why they're looking for, that's why we have audience with them, right? But the interest is that to validate your suspicion, is that there is a growing interest outside of the United States.
It's funny you say like 20 to 30% come outside of the US, and like plug and play on 3, you guys actually come over to other markets. Like, how come it's still such a low number? Because in the US, like India has been really big in tech. I mentioned Indonesia. Europe is growing, and like in the UK, you can say that in every part of the UK itself, there is a known scene. Nottingham has one. London may have 2 or 3 even. We have Tel Aviv, which is massive. Berlin is really coming up. There are so many new markets, and like then there is the issue. It's so difficult in the US for people to get a visa anyway. We have seen the guys of Buffer, for example, who had to leave. One of the best examples, and they actually, what they did when they had to leave was look at the world map, like, and then look at where are we welcome? Where will they give us a visa? Oh, Hong Kong, let's go over there. We have never been there. Obama now is realizing it after a lot of issues with TechCrunch, having written Retried Web, GigaOM. Everyone has written about, but like, why is it still only 20 to 30%? Is that still in the mindset of the investors?
Well, even inside, at least what we're seeing, even inside AJ, even inside the valley. I mean, most of them are on Sand Hill Road. Okay.
Yeah.
If the companies across the bridge, then they don't like to invest anymore. It's still a very maybe snobby kind of environment. So, but having said that, things are changing.
Things are changing. You've got economies that are developing all over the world, new markets, right? New consumers, and I mean the observation too. If you look at the number of companies, a lot of growth is fueled by international.
So we have one more person walking in here. It's actually a host.
Second week in a row. Hi guys.
We just blame. We won't blame Kickstart, who didn't let you go earlier. We will just blame Manila traffic. So welcome, Jay.
Thank you.
You know everyone here? Okay,
I thought you were
jump in now.
I thought you were Skyping in.
Oh, you thought I was Skyping it? No, I'm here in the flesh. Or this is a virtual me.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have a question for the Valley guys, or the Bay Area guys. So, I have an expat friend who characterized the Filipina. He said that Filipinas, versus Thai women. He goes, the Thai women are, on the average, prettier. He says that. But Filipinas, when they're stunning, they're stunning. So my question to you is, how are Philippine startups perceived in the Valley? I mean, compared to startups in Asia. I mean, are we characterized as, oh, those guys are good at this, and the Singaporeans are good at this, e-commerce play or whatever. Is there that perception?
I mean, in terms of perception, I think it's only starting to unfold because we don't have.
Well, first of all, do you agree with the characterization of Filipino women? I'm just trying to digress.
I'll say
We've got an expert in the matter here.
We've got a half Thai, Filipino Thai over there, my daughter.
Oh yeah. Okay, so she's got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think I'm obliged to actually agree with you.
Okay. So is she the stunning part or the? Okay. So, but sorry to digress there, but I figured throw that in,
Beauty's on the inside, right?
Oh, okay.
But in terms of a perception about Filipino companies, Filipino startups, it's new. It's new in the Valley. Like I said, we have 2 stories right now that have sort of been introduced into the Valley. So I think it's TBD. We haven't had as much activity as China per se. China or India. And even if you look at it, look at where my personal observation is that we're probably going to stand out in the areas where we've had our strengths culturally, right? If it's entertainment, I think that there's an area around entertainment, creativity, also service oriented, whether or not it's on a platform in software. And I think mobile is also probably going to be an area where we'll be characterized as having some unique contributions. But I think it's still unfolding.
I think it's funny you mentioned mobile, because we have that pretty much every week in the Start.th group as well. Like, someone writes about SMS, and you have then some guys who live abroad, Singapore mainly, who immediately jump on the bandwagon of SMS is dead. Except in the Philippines, like, there are more mobile phones than people. And like everything,
that's true.
I think it's right now 34 or 35% only of the population who have internet access. So SMS is really a big driver still. And I think also several years ago, when the Bay wanted to crack the mystery of Indonesia, it was also a lot why it didn't work. Do not understand SMS anymore. The old focus of where you still realize, like, you know, there are people, I know there are many who hate to hear it, but there are people in the Philippines who live on less than $2 a day, but a mobile phone they have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
A mobile phone they have, and you can reach them.
Right.
It's the new hi-fi stereo. In the old days, in the 80s, you know, during our parents' years, it was the house. And then 10 years later, it was just having a car was the prized possession. And then in the 80s, it would be the car. And then later on, it would be a stereo. And then now it's just, you know, reduced to a...
Yeah.
That's a status symbol now.
That's right.
So status symbol just changes through the decades.
Yeah, the phone and a cup of Starbucks.
Yeah, it's the Starbucks. Like, it's actually funny you say that of status symbol, because I look a lot at South Africa as well as how they develop, and like totally off topic, but in recent months there has been a lot with fire weapon issues. Also, like in the Philippines, we have had some cases, but I have a friend who is South African, and who would say when the mobile phones came up, South Africa suddenly became a safer country. Because where before it wasn't in South Africa, it's like here, but it's even worse.
The question is, did the population grow?
I don't know about that.
I thought there might be a correlation, you know, less violence,
I would assume it is, but basically in South Africa you walk into a club and everyone hands in their firearms at the club. And like suddenly that changed from have you seen my 9mm to have you seen my mobile phone?
My iPhone. Right.
But here in the Philippines, it's amazing. Like to reach family remotely, it's SMS. It's all SMS. People even don't call. When I arrived here, it was like, can't you call me? Like you ask me a question about work. Like, will I get fired? Like, no, I'm not firing you over SMS. I'm modern. I will email you. Like,
but there are text breakups.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's right. That's
much
right.
more harmful, I think.
yeah.
What's interesting that you brought that up, because I was just sharing with some folks that it's a different dynamic in confirming meetings. I planned this trip sort of last minute, 3 days before I flew out, and I was trying to confirm meetings, and everybody was basically, the message back via email was, text me when you arrive, and then we'll confirm something. Not, okay, we can confirm. I mean, there are those, but there were those where just text me when you arrive, and then we'll set something up.
Right.
So.
And so, yes, for the Philippines, mobile will be really important, because if we get accessibility or internet connectivity all over the country, like even more so now the broadband strategy has been ditched by the president, it will all be mobile. Wow. The future of the internet in the Philippines is mobile.
Right, and it's the future of even a lot of developing countries is all mobile. I mean, look what happened to Dell going private, right? Yeah. Laptops are sort of, well, we need to rethink our strategy, etc. It's your mobile device now, easier access.
So Jojo, what do you think? I mean, you've been around the country. What have you seen? Well, what kind of personality do we have here as far as startups are concerned?
Yeah, you know, I think because of our affinity to Facebook and Twitter, we are mirroring what's happening around the world, even in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
So which is good news, because even with On3, the first 2 years, our interest was really just to ask everybody and anybody with a startup idea, doesn't need to be in IT or mobile, whatever, to just pitch. And interesting, I thought it would be more on agriculture, because we are an agricultural country. But if you look at the numbers, 60-70% of them are internet, web, mobile startup ideas or startup companies. No? So it was a surprising find for us. So that's what we're seeing here. So we are mirroring what's happening, and it's good news.
How about other industries like clean tech?
Clean tech. We've had a few.
There are some, but the thing is, for startups, it's very expensive. Okay, so there are a few of them, maybe clean tech, but more on the software side, more on the, not on the hard devices and stuff.
Are capital intensive.
Yeah.
And I've heard of those guys that develop like dengue detectors or dengue.
Yeah, and it's mobile.
Yeah.
Well, there's a bunch of students in Bulacan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other
But
one
it's software based.
Yeah.
Yes. And even in Bataan, we had companies like, for example, that's mobile. They take a picture of the palay, and with depending on the color of the palay, it will determine the amount of fertilizer that you need to put in the plant.
Ground,
Yeah. And so those things, for example, even the color of beef, if it is good or bad, but it's mobile device based.
I would assume there will be an uptake in the number of those startups as well, because in last months I've also seen that in the Philippines, social entrepreneurship, the startups are more and more focusing on it. I recently talked to Mark Ruiz of Happy Noi, and they go to the last mile for startups, and then for Sari Sari stores, also train them, and they are now actually looking into building mobile apps for Sari Sari stores to help with inventory. A really big thing is Sari Sari stores a lot depend on pay me next week when you get paid, so they can keep track record. Last year there was the Bigas and the Erie Hackathon, which were the awareness is there, because culturally, even if many live in Manila, but they still have family in the province. So I would assume in year 4 you guys will see a lot more pitches going in that direction as well. Also still mobile.
Yeah.
Because mobile has become the cheapest computer there is. We now have Androids at 3,000 or some 3,000 pesos.
That's right.
Well, mobile, your transaction device, your remittances, everything. I mean, it's happening via mobile device.
Roland, you saw that as well, because at the end of the day, you are one of the co-founders of one of the first Filipino success stories startups with Chica.
Yes. But, just to contribute to what you guys were talking about, it's interesting. In the last 10 years, I remember back in 2005 or 2006, I judged a business plan competition, and the winner was actually clean tech, green tech, that we had sent to Harvard to compete to the next level, and they had actually won the grand prize. And these guys were just shredding aluminum cans and converting them into building materials. They were making composite out of shredded aluminum, mixing it with stuff, and then using it to as kind of like a gypsum board. So I tend to agree with you that of course, with a lot of the publicity and a lot of the activity online, we'll see a lot more software related developments. But having seen that,
it's possible.
It's possible. I'm hopeful that we can come up with things aside from just social platforms.
Yeah, I'm wondering that the gap is actually exposing these types of stories to the community and the world. So, because web applications, mobile applications, I mean, we have a community, and it's thriving. There's a model to follow, the San Francisco model, and everywhere else in the world. It's becoming a community based thing. But when you start looking at clean tech, agri, med tech, they're not there. They haven't joined the community, so they don't take advantage of that word of mouth effect.
Yeah. Maybe Frank
morale boosting.
Maybe Frank can give him more exposure in the upcoming podcast. Find someone, talk about it, just so
I actually know several who approached already, because now we have more and more focus. Actually, I'm discovering in developers who are saying we want things like WebMD, but then local based and to mobile.
Right.
I have had 4 or 5 requests. Are you aware of similar local projects? And it's mainly my reply is the same. No, I'm not aware, because it's a sector who the people who build it not aware, total different network.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I think the
maybe because a lot of these fields are hard sciences, and a lot of these scientists and engineers, they just like creating things. They're not really interested in taking the next,
seeing it propagate.
But come on, we in the startup scene, we have to bubble, of course, otherwise we can justify the 200 million valuation.
It's different with mobile or internet. You have to take it out there for you to get satisfaction.
Right.
Yeah.
For hardcore scientists, engineers, they like to I want to create this
really great
plan that will be 10 times more delicious or whatever, and that's it.
But the disconnect is between the product and the business model, and trying to marry it, because the scientists are always focused on, I just want it to be really good.
But that's why they don't bubble up.
And that's why, they don't bubble up. Whereas, when you talk about, so how are you going to make money from this? I don't know. My whole thing is just making it really good.
I just want to be in Nat Geo or in National Science.
Yeah.
The short path, I think, to that would be the recent emergence of the social enterprise.
Right.
Guys, okay. We just had SI Camp, which is Social Innovation Camp, a couple of months back, and that's when they started coming out of the woodwork. Unfortunately, they don't have the access to the ones that will provide them some funding.
Right.
Because they don't necessarily have a business model.
Right.
Okay. So their end game is really bringing a social thing. I mean, a social benefit. Putting it out there. Hopefully, of course, self-sustaining is what everybody wants. But it's hard to have a self-sustaining model. I hope that's the short path, and maybe we could tap into that.
Well, I think increasing awareness. I mean, that's been the other challenge with On3. I mean, part of On3 was creating this rolling business plan competition across the country so that we could discover what was happening, right? And I think there are a lot of areas that still need to become aware that there are these types of activities, that there is a network out there that can support, that can mentor, that can coach, right? And hopefully over time, they'll start to surface more.
We definitely need more resources. Like, for example, one of the On3 winners is Rad Green Solutions. It's clean tech, okay? And we brought them. They came to Silicon Valley. They stayed at Plug and Play for 3 or 4 months. But really, to be honest, they really couldn't tap the resources that we had at Plug and Play because we were more focused on mobile internet. No? So it is a challenge for us, to find really good places or resources that they can tap into.
But I would assume even in the Valley, it's still difficult, because if 10 years ago VC and internet startups was really big. That has now moved to clean tech very much. Very many funds are investing a lot more in clean tech.
But disappearing again.
The fame factor is very high.
Well, you know, and also with alternative energy, et cetera, remember there were subsidies from the government.
Yeah.
So VCs were highly interested to come in. If government money was coming in, we're coming in. There was this limitation, $44,000 a year for the doctors to basically digitize their medical records. So it was like, yes, we're going to support these EMR, you know, companies. Practice Fusion, all these other companies started, you know, coming about. So,
and of
yes,
course, then comes the thinking like we could make a quicker exit and everything.
Exactly.
But like between us, totally between us on air, like for emerging markets, no matter what we call them, and I say Southeast Asia. Let's forget about Singapore for a moment.
Okay.
Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America, like even Brazil, if you look at the new C&D classes, which we also see here in the Philippines, like social entrepreneurship is the next big thing. Because it will take modern tech to the whole population. And like, how does that feel in the Valley scene? Do you guys already have a focus on that? Because I ask, you know, because we see more and more people, but you know, like the younger entrepreneurs, they also want to know, like, there is a future for them to make a little bit of money. It's not only being driven by creating.
Right. So there are some. So there are interesting business models. For instance, I met with a startup, one of the founders of a startup called Ad Local, right? And basically they're focused on, they've created this online platform for organic meat. So they work with local farmers who produce the meat. And so the local farmers, you know, they want to have access to a market. They also need they need the tools to manage their inventory. Yep. People now are concerned about eating local grown food and helping local farmers and producers. And so they actually raised money. Andreessen, A to Z, invested in the company. They did a beta launch. You know, one of the co-founders moved to New York because apparently one of the biggest meat buyers is actually in New York. So there are startups like that are, okay, this is local, organic, helping small farmers, bringing them online, and I'm sure that that's also going to start to, that model will probably be implemented in other areas too, where maybe it's not meat, maybe it's something else, but helping like these local coffee growers sell their, you know, fair trade.
And actually the,
you know, creating that.
It's actually the new in vogue sort of restaurant. They call it hyper-local. Hyper-local restaurants, meaning most of the stuff that they serve is from the
right, and actually there is going to be a seal now. I mean, even there's a seal, and then you get to know, the other thing that they're doing is they're putting profile on the local farmer, like where is this farm? What, you know, how large is
like
the farm? It's it's so. I mean, I think there are going to be those types of opportunities so that the consumer who's buying knows that, for instance, if Pete Coffee starts to buy from these local farmers, etc., they're getting more information about these farmers, and the farmers can sell more.
And that's all because the global franchise model at the end of the day doesn't work. We go to hyper-local to highlight local enterprises, local quality, because I like admitting it, I hate Starbucks with a passion because I don't like their coffee. And it's just mirroring. I didn't come to Manila to live in the fort and experience the same. But like we saw it with Kickstart as well. Kickstart invested in Bagosphere, which, like, for those who don't know, everyone by now knows Caliber, and Bagosphere is like the hyper-local model of Caliber. Very much in a nutshell. Right. And like there is a growing market in that. Recently, like I have not covered them on the site yet, but we have had the Spark project launch, crowdfunding for social entrepreneurs. We have Justin with Living Social, who will soon launch, also crowdfunding, but more focused on expats investing. We have Philanthropy, who have also launched crowdfunding locally, and all those platforms have not gotten any attention yet, but they all have a certain focus on social entrepreneurs. And I think It is a massive market. The reach is so much bigger. Like if you nowadays go online, and I have people telling me like, we're aiming to get 1% of the market. I say like, don't bother. Like look at 0.1% or even less, and you will be happy. But like in those ventures, and also hyper local, because people love hyper local. It's the global franchise, globalization, we like it, it's convenient, but it doesn't work. You don't have that familiar factor, and at the end of the day, everyone likes that factor.
Right.
And then with social entrepreneurship, there is a bonus, like we're doing goods.
Right.
And I really would like to see in the next years how the states and mega funds evolve. Because there may not be those government benefits.
Yeah, but if you're looking at raising money from traditional VCs, you have to go to the basics. You have to have a market, which is scalable. You have to have a business model. You know how to make money. You have to have a good team that can execute. Because at the end of the day, I mean, these guys also are doing their job as well. No? I mean, if they cannot make money with smart investments, then they won't be able to
they need a return.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's
the bottom line. And so, but having said that, there are
like
funds
Omidyar.
Exactly.
Like Omidyar does that. Yeah. And there are actually larger funds. I met with Tessie Guillermo with Zero Divide that focuses on these community based products, bringing technology to communities, etc. And she was saying that one of the movements is there's sort of this mandate with large funds that actually have to allocate some of the investment to social. Yeah, exactly. And so she was actually, we were going to spend some time, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that end of this month or next month, but she wanted to walk through exactly what was going on in that area. And she sits on the board with some of the board members who oversee some of these funds. And interestingly enough, she said, I've only been to the Philippines. She's Filipino. She's only been to the Philippines once. But she said they're starting to look at the Philippines. So I said, well, that's good. And this conversation happened in October of last year. Good. So there are larger funds, not that don't operate as VCs, but feel that there's a responsibility and there's some pressure for them to start doing good by investing a portion of their funds that's good. Outside and on these types of projects.
So the Brits actually left something behind in the US other than a negative reputation. Because if you live in the UK, it's almost like a moral obligation that as soon as you make some money, you sit on the board of a charity or something. It's almost like an obligation there. It's like in the genes. You're an accountant, normally wouldn't care at all. No one would expect it from you. You're on your own accounting company. Like, you have to be on the board of a charity.
Responsibility.
But back to online startups. What have you seen from the Philippines in the last 2 years that you thought, like, this has potential?
You want to talk about?
Well, I mean, a lot of the discovery we've found is through the On3 activity, and so we were pleasantly surprised by a number of the business models. I mean, I think there are already some success stories with some of those companies, like Ayana, is one, remittances, and we were saying that model. I mean, we were talking about global markets, but I mean that's an issue for a lot of developing countries. You have one parent working abroad having to send money, and the other person receiving the money, spending all the money, sometimes not on what it's supposed to be spent on. So here's a solution that works not just in the Philippines, but can work in India, in Mexico, or in other countries because
yes,
behavior, right?
Yes and no. I agree with you, and I'm good friends with the founder of Ayana, Nico, and yes and no. What I've seen around Asia, and I was just in India 3 months ago, and Singapore recently, is that a lot of these. I agree with you that these are solutions that can be leveraged across the world, but money is one of those things, or remittance is one of those things that's heavily regulated. So it's not as easily portable as some of the other social solutions that we might have. For instance, one of the things that the Philippines pioneered back in 2003, because my friend started this, was pass a load, share a load.
Right.
You know, that's a social. That's got a social, yeah, sure, part utilitarian, part social benefit, because you know you're helping someone which eventually was leveraged for donate a load.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I don't.
You mean all those spam SMS I got?
No. When there's a calamity and you know you send a text and you basically donate 5 pesos or 10 pesos, you know that's a form of platform that enables that. So that I think is a little bit more scalable, more portable, rather than something that's a little bit more regulatorily tied or constrained. Because you got AMLA, every country has their own BSP, the central bank and FR, Federal Reserve Board and all that stuff. So yes, I agree in that sense that these are solutions that address particular problems that are glaring, but the solutions don't lend themselves well to scaling. Whereas the pass a load solution was copied by every operator around the world. Too bad our guys didn't go out there and start suing people for patent infringement, because we did. The Philippines got the patent on that. But everyone copied that pass a load, share a load. That was a Philippine innovation, and we won awards in 2004 for that. So yes, I agree. But the other thing that I noticed, and I tell people, if I had the money to be a VC, to be a Kickstart, to be an idea space, or to have my own little venture, I think I'll focus on the share load, pass a load sort of solutions. Meaning, if you go to Singapore, and I was there just a few weeks ago, I'm going next week. Most of the investments go to these companies now, that make me wonder. They invested in that because these are first world problems.
Yeah, but it's Singapore we're talking about.
But most of the solutions that get investments there, they're just copycats of US. They're replicating it because it's a first world market. So they're figured, we'll open up an online boutique here. We got the logistics distribution. Fine, that's a nice hook. And hopefully, I guess I'm thinking maybe their exit there is someone like Lazada or someone looking for presence somewhere will roll that up and aggregate it. Amazon will buy all this presence and e-commerce presence in Thailand and Indonesia and things like that.
But the thing is that model has worked.
Yeah, that model works for an exit, but in terms of scalability, when you're copying, essentially, so it has to. I guess it depends on what the milestones you want to achieve are. Yes, I guess
milestones or
and the Russian investor that I met with in Singapore basically said, there's this model,
right?
Pretty much what you're saying. These are just copycats. They will make money, but they will exit, but they're not real innovations. And he thinks, this is a Russian guy from who's got a VC in Singapore. He thinks that the Philippines is a good country for guys with real innovation that can scale globally. And I'm thinking, pass a load, share a load could have been one of those.
Exactly, that's a clear result of that.
Sorry, we have 2 minutes.
Okay, so I'm
punchlines.
So I'm done.
Okay.
We need to score some punchlines on this show.
Let me follow up on what he said. That's the reason we're not discussing Singapore. We can't make sense of it. Okay, the Philippines is unique because it's got third world problems, which lends to innovation, and there's a real market because of the population size. You can't find that in Singapore. All you have in Singapore is money. That's why it's strange to try to analyze that.
That's why earlier on the show, I like going to Singapore, whenever I'm in lack of first world, I go to Singapore. And they have the Singapore sling at Raffles, come on, I can't make it that way. But it's its own bubble, it's not representative of Asia, of an emerging market. They got lots of money, they make sure they keep the money flowing and everything to keep the bubble going.
Right.
It's even not a perfect copy, although you could say they have their own universities that flow back in the scene. But at the end of the day, it's even not a perfect copy of the Valley. and like, yes, we can innovate, and more countries will do it because we have all our own issues.
Right.
I think that also makes it difficult for investors. It's why they couldn't crack Indonesia, although they wanted, because so big, so much money, and own issues.
I think we have a lot. I mean, the Philippines, I think, is very unique in Asia, number one. I mean, it's a melting pot of a lot of different cultures coming together. I think we have a lot of strengths. I mean, I would like to see more come out in the medical field. I mean, we produce nurses and doctors globally. And I actually, when I first started working with STAC, I thought we were going to be a med tech hub. I mean, that was the first impression. I said, if anything, we should be like at the top in terms of medicine, and things should be happening in that area, and science. So maybe there is room for, well, there's definitely room, and hopefully more and more people will be inspired to do something along those lines.
There are certainly enough homemade chem labs.
Okay, guys. Last
No, but I've said my piece, so.
Jojo?
Well, just with On3, we're having our regionals the week of September 16th and the 23rd. And then the finals in December. But we'll make the announcements pretty soon, but
you know where to send them. I'll cover it with highlights.
And stay tuned, because talk about competition. We're hoping that's one of the new ingredients that we'd like to inject into our finals this year is competition, and not just from the Philippines,
but from the ASEAN region.
But from the ASEAN region.
Cool.
So.
Okay, thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Okay, good night.
It was my pleasure. I'm not starstruck anymore, but like I think after Ray Wu, you guys are the first international guests on the show.
Yeah, except you served them beer.
Yeah, but
They have beer.
Looking forward to.
Apparently, last time with when we were at the Heineken Brewery with Ray Wu, we got a copyright claim on YouTube.
Really?
Oh, this time we just have The Godfather.
So we went, but Universal, who cares?
Right.
We do it proudly.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everyone for a new episode. Thank you again to the guys at New Media Factory, whom you can check out all the shows on nmfnetwork.tv. And thanks to Beyond the Box for hosting us. If ever you need to buy Apple items, come here. The guys are really, ladies and guys working here are really nice.
Is this 24-hour place? No?
During the
Summer.
in summer they are.
Okay.
And I'm as usual out. You miss your moment to walk out.
I know, man. Okay. Good night, guys.
And we hope